You're listening to the Lindsey Way Podcast for all things hunting with Jeff and David Lindsey. Hello and welcome to the first ever Lindsey Way Podcast. My name's Jeff Lindsey.
And I'm David Lindsey.
And we're the Lindsey Way. We have been asked for probably a couple years. We've been on dozens of podcasts ourselves from other people, but everybody says, hey, when are you going to start sharing some of your knowledge? When are you going to tell little backstories, yada, 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 on your own podcast? And, well, for one, we didn't have time or didn't take the time, but now, in my opinion, it is a very important and powerful form of communication and media, whatever you want to call it. So I feel like now's the time. We have a little time right now, I think you could say, because it's the off season. I know we are head and heels and already working head over heels working over our farms right now, but we got a little downtime. We're not getting up at daylight and hunting till dark, so we're going to try to knock some of these out. I can't promise them weekly. Heck, I can't even promise them monthly, but right now we have the best of intentions to deliver a few a month, but that's the plan, and hopefully you'll be able to listen to this wherever you can listen to podcasts. We're even going to throw it on our YouTube channel. And we could go on and on about all the places you can listen to podcasts. But anyhow, I just wanted to, the first one, in my opinion, I thought it was best just to kind of give a little backstory. Yeah. Kind of how we got into this, how we started filming, how we, went about getting our hands on an Iowa farm, how we moved to Iowa, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of stuff I think we can tell people that we get asked in maybe small talk at shows, the NWTF, the Deer Classic, Deer Fest, wherever we go. But, stuff we'll say on here is not stuff that could ever be in our show. We have 13 shows a year, and, believe it or not, we just filmed season 4, which is kind of hard to believe how fast time flies and how old we're getting. But stuff that we can't show on there because, 13 episodes is a lot. Every one of them's 23 minutes, but we're not talking, we're telling about what the story of the hunt, the story of the buck, yada, yada, yada. So I think this gives us a better opportunity to be a little more connected to some of the people that we talk to at all. And, hey, you want to learn a little more, go listen to episode 2 or something. That's just kind of was our intention of it. And, we'll take it and see where it goes. But me, I'm a family of 4. If you've watched any of our episodes, if you follow us at all on social media, I have a 4-year-old son named Cash. He's wide open, and I got a 20-month or 21-month-old little daughter named Charlotte who makes him look like he's standing still at all times. She is double wide open, but a lot of fun. But they are actually grandchild number 3 and 5 for you.
Yep. Yeah, it's on our side of the fence over here. Of course, it's Wanda and myself, and Jeff is my son, my only son. Jacqueline is my only daughter. Of course, Jeff has his 2 children, Jacqueline Jeff and Ashley have, Cash and Charlotte, and then Jacqueline, my daughter, and my son-in-law Dustin. They have 3 kids, which is Elizabeth. She's 10. Jackson is 8, and the little wild thing we call her name is Lindsay. She is about to be 4. So we got 5 grandkids, and we got an awesome family.
A hunting family, that's what we are.
It's just an awesome family. The good Lord has blessed us, and it's just more than one person could ever be thankful for. I mean, just incredible. So I'm very thankful the good Lord's blessed me and put me in this spot.
Yeah, if you've ever seen us, we go out and eat. When we're with my sister's family, we go out and eat wherever we are. We're the 3-ring circus. I mean, 5 kids, and we're a little loud and wild ourselves. Not in a bad way, but that just, we get amped up, I guess. And you add these 5 kids to the mix, we're entertainment. They usually put us in the center of the restaurants, and, we provide the show. Not on purpose. That's just kind of what we've morphed into. But like I said, we're a hunting family. It used to be, I shot my first deer when I was 10. My sister shot her first deer when she was 7 or 8. She was definitely a tomboy, and she cared more about it at a younger age than I did. But back then, it was more of a weekend thing. Going to deer camp at my grandpa's place. stuff like that. But now, it's a lifestyle. I mean, we live it, we breathe it. We're on our farms almost daily throughout the entire year, one of our farms somewhere. So that's just something that it's kind of turned into. And I do think that would be a great discussion, which I would want some feedback from some people that have had kids before. My dad was sitting with Elizabeth and Jackson, who've both killed their deer at young ages. And Cash wants to shoot one now, but I mean, he's 4. He has the CVA Hunter 243. I dipped it in bottomland, and I wanted to be ready this year if I thought it was time, but it wasn't. Even though he was ready, I don't think he was really ready. And I want it when he shoots his first deer, I want him to be able to remember it. So that's something we'll get into at a later date. But when is the right time to start a kid? I don't know.
My answer on that would be that would depend on the children. It depends on the maturity of each one of them, what they're thinking, what they're wanting. If they're going out with you every day and they're saying, "Daddy, I want to shoot a deer," I don't know you can pick an age. I think that you just got to help work them into that right there, and you'll know when the time's ready.
Yeah, we'll know. I think we'll know. That's what everybody says. Well, he'll tell you. I'm like, well, no, he would shoot a deer every time if I would let him. But he's 4, and even though he's above average height for his age, he still can't even shoulder the gun and still reach the trigger with his right hand. He tries to with the left hand, but Lord help, who knows what would happen if we did that. But I want to get into a question that we get into asked a lot. One, how did you end up in Iowa? And 2, how did you end up filming? And it's funny, but both of those questions kind of lead to the same place, because we first moved to Iowa, it was 15 years ago. We started out over in the Albee area.
Monroe County.
I was out of college, I believe, and we started hunting. My first time ever going to Iowa, first morning ever. We had a buddy named Bruce who had a supply, and I think it took us 2 years at that point to get drawn. We were over southeast Iowa, and my first morning ever, he said, "I'm putting you in the best day of deer hunting stand." That's what it's called, best day of deer hunting stand. So I get in right at daylight. I'm walking to my stand, and I bump this giant out of this clover field. All I know is a big 10-pointer, white horn. We've been to Canada hunting before, but this is one of the biggest deer I'd ever seen. We went to Canada, 4 or 5 years back in the 90s. I killed some good deer. You always killed bigger deer than I did. Newsflash on that, but get into that later. But he went down in the bottom. I go down in there. I'm in a climber, an old man climber, I remember. I'm sitting there. Shimmy up the tree. I hadn't been in the stand 10, 15 minutes. And what I believe, I have no way of knowing for certain, but that same buck came down the trail, nose down, and this is on November the 7th, 8th maybe. Yeah, and I shoot him at 30 yards, 27, 28 yards, kind of hit him a little back and decide just not to move, give him some time. We ended up finding him that night. But as I'm sitting there giving him time, I look over and I'm shimmied up on this bottom, which now, it's kind of crazy. I'd probably never hunt that bottom because I'd be worried about the wind swirling, but it was just a big funnel. And I look to my right behind me, I hear something just shuffling through the leaves. And this, 160, 170 inch thick white horn Iowa giant is just wind at his back, going right through the Iowa hardwoods, making all kind of noise. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my first morning ever. I love Iowa. I'm never leaving. It was kind of a very surreal feeling. It's something I dreamt about. I have read North American Whitetail magazines my whole life, and I still got a collection of very extensive collection of North American Whitetail magazines that I go back and read from time to time. But as I read them as a child, none of it applied. The inside corners, the hogbacks, the ridges, it didn't apply to Georgia. We got the occasional hardwoods, but we got pine trees, and it's flat, and creek bottoms, and none of it really ever made sense. And then when I get up there and spend a couple years, I'm like, okay, it all makes sense now. So it's one of those things that we always wanted to go, and when we finally got to go, we fell in love. We fell in love with Iowa. We fell in love with the Midwest. And at that point, I had been filming a lot of turkey hunts. I had a buddy named Michael Lee, not the Michael Lee with Backwoods Life, but Michael Lee, a buddy that lived close to my house down there in Georgia where we grew up. And, we did grow up in Georgia, a little town called Pike County, and we still have a farm in Georgia not far from there, 20 minutes in Meriwether County, which will always be considered our family farm. We've had it since, I believe, 2000, and we'll probably have that as long as we live, huh?
Hopefully, yep. Yep, actually we bought it in 1999, but that's close enough. And every year we just try to do things to make it better, even to date. We can work a lot in the South, and we can't work in different other areas that we have farms in. So,
and it's a good farm. We don't get to hunt it. We hunt it a lot, mainly in September and December. But when we do get to hunt it, it's pretty good because we don't put a lot of pressure on them. But we had a lot of turkeys in, so I was as passionate about turkey hunting there. That was my I don't want to say my first love because I love deer hunting, but that's what I truly fell in love with. We'd go every morning this season, and we had a lot of turkeys then. We don't now in Georgia, but we had a lot of turkeys then, and it felt like we were just about killing one every time we went or coming close to it. And so my buddy Michael that I hooked up with, first morning we ever went, I killed a triple-bearded bird on a farm in Meriwether, and we just hit it off. And so I started filming for him. He started filming me whenever we just took turns. And had another buddy named Chad who would go some. They taught me a lot about running cameras because I knew nothing but a handy cam and carrying it with you when you went on the deer stand and filming the deer on autofocus, auto, everything. And Michael, he taught me a lot about that. And one thing led to another, and next thing we know, he had a ton of turkey kills before me, and then me and him filmed 2 or 3 years, and we had a pile of turkey hunts, turkey videos that was pretty good footage. Most of them were there in Georgia, and we got them. We ended up getting a logo, and we said, you know what, we're gonna produce this video called "Turkeys Gone Wild." We had the logo, and all the way down to even went and talked to a major player in the outdoor industry, a big person, got a meeting with him, went and sat down, and he said, look, turkey hunts are a dime a dozen. I'm going to do everything I can to kind of just talk you out of it. And you want to talk about deflated.
Kind of bust your bubble.
Busted our bubble, my bubble in particular, because that was kind of a dream of ours. And back then, I had all my turkey idols. I watched Matt Moret, Ricky Joe Bishop, Walter Parrott, all those guys that I could quote turkey videos. You could turn the sound off and I could narrate exactly what was going on and what they were saying. So I thought I would have my own, or our own, I should say, and it didn't happen. And, I guess it deflated us, but we still kept doing what we were doing. We said one day we'll do something, and looking back, that was probably that was probably 17, 18 years ago. But yes, that was a good thing.
It made you go in a different direction.
That was the best thing that ever happened to us, because had we sunk some time and money in turkey videos, it wouldn't have went anywhere. We would have sold a few, and it would have been cool, and then we could have gave a bunch of copies to our friends. But besides that, thank God for unanswered prayers, because that's exactly what happened there. But that's kind of how I got into filming. And then we started filming some deer hunts. And then we moved to Iowa. One thing led to another. I had a couple good buddies who said, Mark Drury is selling his farm. I was like, oh, man, well, that's interesting. Didn't know how big it was. Didn't know anything about it. But he said, I ended up talking to Dan Perez, one of the first people I ever met in this industry. And Dan, super nice guy, still a great friend of both of us today. And he was with this was before the Whitetail Properties days. He said, hey, come meet me in this place, and we're going to go look. And me and Mark ended up going turkey hunting that morning. Me and Mark, and I think even Jarrett went with us. And Mark showed me all around the farm. It was just me. I mean, my Lord, I didn't have the money to buy this farm by no means. And it was big, and it was overwhelming to me. And kind of several times I thought, what am I doing here? But so what I did, I went back and kind of told you all about it. I mean,
Come back and put the sales pitch on.
Yeah, I said, I think your words were, no way, don't even think about it. And small talk and how we do things, conversations just linger. I couldn't get it out of my head. And he said, finally, I'll go look at it.
Yeah.
And then you went and looked at it, and then you fell in love. Yeah. And we already had 700 acres, and this was way before the Iowa land craze started. I mean, this is when
we could buy land for $850 an acre.
Yeah, I remember looking at several good farms, $700-800 an acre.
Yeah.
And hindsight's 20/20, but gosh, Wish we could have bought it up then, but
we still had it.
But it was one of those deals. He said, okay, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to try to buy this farm, but I'm going to have to sell pretty much everything I've worked for my whole life. One of our farms in Georgia, one of your other farms in Iowa, and something else I don't remember. But and you end up buying it in pieces, and it wasn't a huge chunk at the time. It was a big tract of land, and Mark actually ended up buying some land that I think through some other guys he knew or was part of. I'm not real sure. There to the north, so that's why he's still our neighbor. And then you just added to it.
We added about 4 or 5 pieces to it. And the truth of the matter is, when Mark sold ours, he was going to change directions, I think, on where he was going to go. Then after we bought his farm, he realized there's not a lot out there for sale, so that's why he ended up buying that, I think, to the north of us.
Yeah, not good stuff, for sure. And you started adding to it. I think you've added 4 or 5 pieces. We ended up building a house, and obviously we sold our farm over in Moravia, Albia area, and moved over there. And this was...
That was in 2007.
2007. Okay,
we bought the farm from him in 2006, built our house in 2007, and man, time's flown since then.
11, 12 years. So yeah, and that's about the date I was thinking in my mind's eye here. But and then so one night we became friends with Mark. We're still friends to Mark this day, and he came over to our house, and I forgot, eating dinner or something, and he starts. I said, "Hey man, look at these deer we killed." How he's telling us about, congrats on the deer we killed. He was sending pictures, whatever, and we said, "Look at this footage of them." And my dad had shot this 8.5-year-old buck we call the heart-shaped buck over a decoy. Just probably one of your most epic hunts ever. I shot another deer over a decoy, and Bobby shot a deer over a decoy. I forgot. It was like 3 deer in a row, and we hardly ever hunt with decoys now, but then we were smacking them with them. And he's like, "Holy cow, that's some great footage, and that's pretty good." Except John, little John at the time was filming me, John Gibbs, and he says he looks like it was raining. His lens was so dusty, but besides that, everything else was good. I'll never forget him saying that. And he said, "Man, I need to send you guys some bows and get you guys on the team." And I think that was their first year with PSC. And we weren't even shooting PSC at the time. We were shooting other bows, if I remember correctly. And we were like, "Hey, sounds good to us." That wasn't why we bought the farm, and that wasn't even ever our goal. We just kind of happened. I don't even remember it step for step. And even then, I didn't really plan on, I guess, continuing it like crazy. But we just kind of dove off into it, and it was just like this pig trail we went down, and we're still down that trail today. But it took off, and then we were with Drury for how many years?
Well, from I guess since 2006 to
Drury Outdoors, and we had a lot of fun with those guys. Met lifelong friends. They have a big team, and we're still friends. Like I say, with half those people over there still that we still talk to. Some of them move on. That's just the way life is, like anything else. But some of them we still talk to. Some of them are a lot still connected in the industry. And there's been so many people that came out of Drury Outdoors, and we are forever grateful to Mark and Terry and Matt and everybody over there for giving us the platform for years. They let us be a part of Dream Season. Dream Season Celebrity was our first one. Then it just kind of morphed into, it was a reoccurring thing with us every year, and we had a lot of fun. The competition side of it, we get asked that a lot. How was that? And that was tough, because that kind of put me and you are competitive. I don't care if we're playing checkers, we're playing tic-tac-toe on a napkin at a restaurant. I want to win, he wants to win, and we butt heads a lot because of that.
Yeah, and you can't have a show where the same people win all the time.
No.
If you do, people will quit watching. We understand that.
And we would want to win every time.
They'd eat at us when we wouldn't win.
Yeah, we'd want to win, and that's the drive that gives us. And that was a good thing about pretty much everybody on that show. Everybody wanted to win, and that's what made everybody better. A better hunter, more competitive, but also didn't like the fact that sometimes, I'd see a picture come over Facebook or they text me one where such and such had killed a deer, and oh man, that's going to hurt us, So that aspect of it kind of, I guess, wore you down a little bit over time, and it was something that, that is one part I don't miss about it, but the closeness and everything else, I definitely miss, and going in, doing our group hunts, our interviews, stuff like that. That was a lot of fun, and man, we made a lot of memories looking back.
Yep, it was a lot of fun. It was some good years, and like you said, dealing and with all the people at Drury Outdoors and Mark and Terry, great people. The whole family, they have some awesome families themselves, and we just feel blessed to be able to know them and be friends with them.
Yeah, I mean, our paths could have started anywhere, and that's just happened to be where ours started. And we still share pics with Mark now. He's our neighbor to the north. We share some deer, not a lot, but we share a fair amount of deer. Baby G was one of those that used both of us. And there's a handful of deer every year that use both of us. But who would ever thought what that would have led to at the time? And then one day, thus having our own show we call the Lindsay Way, and hey, that's just the way life goes. So
yeah, it is a big circle, but it's been real good. Good Lord's been blessing us all the way. It seemed like things we would do that He would bless what we did, and we're very thankful for that. It puts us in a spot, I guess, now where we're having to do all this stuff ourselves. We don't have a Drury Outdoors that we could lean back on. We just filmed our 4th season, so it's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. And we said when we started, we left Drury, we just kind of wanted to do our own thing with our family. And we called Mark on the phone. We felt like he was the one who brought us on. We had a conversation with him, and we talked about everything and what we wanted to do, and we weren't wanting to be, a competitor, so to speak. We just wanted to kind of do our own thing and deliver our own message. And, I don't want to say get a little more freedom, because I don't know if that's the right word, but just do our own thing and get our family more involved. Because, with Dream Season, we had such a group of killers, those 4 or 5 teams, that, we'd have 13 shows a year. We was killing 40 deer. So every episode had 2 or 3 kills at least. So there was no room for, taking your grandkids or taking friends and stuff, and that's what we like to do. And but of course, land then wasn't expensive as it is now, but it was a 1,500 acre farm, and we've added to it, been blessed for that. And that's kind of been your farm. I tell everybody, that's my dad. We call it the main farm, the family farm, whatever, but that's your farm. That's his blood, sweat, and tears. He worked his whole life, busted his butt, 60, 80 hours a week every year, ever since he was old enough to have a tool belt on, and that's his farm. And I've since ventured out and been blessed enough to buy other farms in Iowa that we hunt on. We call our satellite farms, small farms, but I did buy a farm. I own a farm in Illinois, my first farm ever. I think it was 10 years ago I bought and built it up, sold it for a little money, bought a bigger farm, and that's one of the ways we kind of make a living is, I don't want to say buying and selling farms, because we don't do it a ton, but we do it enough that I guess you could call it a little bit of investment. Sure. That's definitely not how we make our living, because most people probably listen to this. All right, Dave, you bought a 1,500 acre farm in Iowa. How did you do that? How did you get to that point of how do you make your living?
Well, I got a couple different ways now. Of course, I do a little bit of farming. I do the same thing Jeff does. I've had some land that I've had over the years, and I'll take that land sometimes, sell it, or get someone to develop it for me, sell lots off of it. I have some rental houses. I have CRP income on the farm that I have now that rent some out to farmers. So I'm diversified enough different ways and do enough things that it keeps me going, let me tell you that.
Right, yeah. And, growing up, you built houses, and I worked for you. I worked for you every summer once I was, big enough to turn me loose on the job sites, and that's kind of how I got started. And then I just, thought I would work for you forever, and then you just kind of semi-retired before the big recession hit, 10 years ago, well, 12 years ago now, and I started my own business in 2006, and kind of doing something similar. And at the time, I didn't want to do that. I liked the comforts of having a check every week, and it was definitely risky going out on my own. But looking back, it's the best thing ever happened to me. We split up, but working with family is great, but also can butt heads. So you got to have the best case scenario to be able to stay friends, like I guess we have. And we've never really gotten in fist fights, but we have had our arguments. Heck, still do over certain things. But the older we get, I found we have less of them. I don't know, you may not agree with that.
Smarter.
Yeah, right. What it takes me till I'm 38 years old to to realize you were right my whole life, right? I've seen one of those slogans.
That's what they say, right?
Yeah, but that's kind of a little backstory of what we do. But we definitely don't make a living. You know, I get so many people on Instagram or come to shows, man, I want to do what you do one day. I want to hunt for a living, you know. And while it does seem like we hunt a lot, you know, I wouldn't be able to film and do what I do now and go as much as I do to the different states and hunt if it wasn't for email and text. Because my business, I have great employees that work for me, but I would not be able to do none of that without text and email. Because 90% of my job, no matter where I'm at in a tree stand or at my house or at my office, revolves on that phone and that computer of mine. So that's what I do, but I definitely don't hunt for a living. I wish I did. That would be awesome, but I don't, and I'll probably never be able to because...
Yeah, and if you step back and you look at where we're at and what we're doing, you know, every day, I mean, it's not possible that we can make enough money doing this. You got to have other sources of income rather than just being in the outdoor industry. We do this because we love to do it, because it's our passion and it's our lifestyle, but it's not what pays the bills.
No, it's not. And we said that when we started this, if it ever becomes a job or it ever becomes where that camera in the tree with me, it wears on me or takes the fun out of it, I'm quitting. Because if a camera didn't show up tomorrow and I was going hunting, I'd still be going hunting. That camera doesn't change anything for me. I love it. I will always do it. There may be a hunt or two throughout the year, you know, when we got our camera guys, and right now they're both from Nebraska, so they're in town. Had they not been in town, I might not go. I'm just going to be honest with you. Yeah. But if it all stopped tomorrow, if Lindsay Way stopped tomorrow, we would still love it just as much as we do. We'd still go.
We'd still be just as passionate about it as we are now.
And it's a fire that burns inside of us, and I hope it never leaves us. And if it does, you know, things happen, things move on. You know, like I said, I used to be as passionate about turkey hunting as anything, and then once I fell in love with the Midwest, all that passion went over there. And then the last few years, I've spread it out into elk hunting. You know, we love to duck hunt too. We both grew up doing that, but elk hunting's become in the rut has become a huge passion of mine, and I guess I just like hunting things in the rut. It doesn't matter if it's a turkey, a elk, or a deer, but you know, even though I was talking the other day with a guy, my favorite month of the year is November, by far. But when we kill our deer, when we make our shows, is in October or September, October, and late season. Because we don't kill that much. We might kill 2 or 3 all month till we go to Illinois, pull out the muzzleloaders. But up until then, you know, it's our favorite month of the year. But we do most of our killing in the front and the back half.
Yep, that's right.
And that's just the way it's. I don't want to say it's always been. We have years better than others, but this year was a good year, a blessed year for us. But I look forward to what little bit's still left. We're going to Mississippi next week. We're going to go and duck hunt and deer hunt in the evening, just a true Delta, the perfect day in the Delta. But the river's still up. We would actually be there right now. I wouldn't be doing this podcast if the river wasn't up to 46 feet right now. But instead, this is what we're doing, but we are going to go there. If the river keeps falling like it's supposed to, we're going to finish out season 4 in Mississippi. There is a ton of deer over there, and we've already killed a couple of deer there. I'd like to get a couple more to get a full episode. While I don't think we're going to get ducks now, we're still going to have a little bit of deer and maybe shooting a hog. Hopefully the hogs won't come back.
It's like for us, it never ends. I mean, if it's from September 1st to January 31st, we're wide open. We're all over the board, you know.
And then it's shed, and then it's turkey, and then we're doing it all over again.
All the shows.
Yeah, I did an Instagram post. It said, you know, can we just press rewind and do it all over again?
I saw that.
And yes, that would be cool if you had a button like that. But
well, it'll be here before we know it.
It does. Time flies, and you look up, and then you're back there chasing them all again. But I guess that's about us. You know, that's 2 of the biggest questions we get of all time. How did y'all get started? And how you make your living? And how do you get in the industry? You know, that's a big question too. And that's probably a podcast for another day, because that is a wide open discussion.
Yep, it really is.
But all right, guys, thanks for listening. This is our first one ever. went about as long as we can probably talk. It went right at 30 minutes, and my mouth is dry. It was cool, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks for listening.